All right, welcome back. I hope you're having an amazing time so far. Our next panel is titled AI's Impact on Oil and Energy. And I'd like to bring our panelists to the virtual stage. Welcome, everyone. We have a really exciting panel here today. My name's Patrika. I'm here with AI4 to moderate today. And first, let's go around the virtual room and introduce all of our panelists. Satyam, would you like to kick us off?
Yes, I am Dr. Satyam Priyadarshy. I'm the Technology Fellow and Chief Data Scientist at Haliburton. For those who don't know Haliburton is one of the world's largest providers of products and solutions for the ever-changing energy industry. You know, it's almost 102 or 103 years old company now with 40,000 people around the world. And our goal is to maximize the asset value by building co-innovative solutions. And I run what is called the Center of Excellence for the energy industry, for big data, data science, and digital, which I started in 2014. And I'm also the managing director of India Center for Haliburton as well, where we are building the next generation workforce.
Very exciting. Thank you. Excited to have you here.
Thank you.
Laurent.
Hi, so Laurent Baumes. I'm the ExxonMobil Global Chemicals Technology Principal for Informatics and Data Analytics. So based in Baytown and working principally, I would say, on research and development for our chemicals business.
Wonderful. Excited to have you here. And Rajiv.
Right. Hello, everyone. Great to be here. My name is Rajiv Aluru. I work for Calpine, which is a Fortune 300 company in the utility space. I work in I head the operation analytics division, where we take the information from our assets all over the country, mostly power plants, and then focus on asset optimization. How do we actually increase the value of the assets based on the data, based on the information that we have that are currently being generated. Before that, I also worked for Duke Energy, which is another big utilities, and that's where I got, and I entered the data analytics space and digitization journey, and had a pretty good time there in terms of delivering customer value and the business value as well, using data and analytics. So those are the experiences that I will be talking about today.
Wonderful. Looking forward to hearing about them. All right, so let's jump right into our first question. So AI is receiving lots of attention within energy companies. People are talking about AI's impact around the selection of drill sites, the customization of drilling and completion plans, downstream operations, smart grid technology, predictive maintenance of hardware, and more. Are you seeing these changes, or is it hype? Let's have Rajiv kick this one off.
Yeah, I would say yes. The short answer is yes, we are seeing the change. And it depends on the utility or the industry. And specifically with regards to the utility section, I can certainly say we are seeing benefits in smart grid, which has been an area for at least a decade or more. But now we are starting to leverage the value from the data. So now that the data is coming in, most of the focus is centered around how do we use the data and then help that in customer value and business value. And then also we are using a similar approach for predictive maintenance as a whole. So I would say all in all, the machine learning and AI is actually getting penetrated more and more with time, and then helping the business get better. That's the way how I would say it.
Excellent, thank you. And Laurent, how do you think?
I think the same. Definitely. I mean, if the question is it real? Yes, for sure. So we can see that there's a clear intention from the different companies to go in that direction using artificial intelligence, where it can be applied, we can see that it's real, as in the program definition. Each time we have a new program, there's a portion of it that is dedicated to data from data capture, data, data analytics, any type of technique. So data is now really kind of at the center of everything, and it's visible also through staffing. So definitely, we do have new people coming in, and we look for these new folks, right, to have those new skills with the new technologies and so on. The size of the impact, I would say, is something that is hard to evaluate, right? I can say that in manufacturing, it's usually easier because you're very close to the money making, operation. So it may be easier to evaluate that. On the research and development, it's hard to size the impact of AI for now. But definitely it's big, and it's everywhere, right? Customer facing, manufacturing, research and development, and so on. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that perspective. And Satyam, what are you seeing?
Yeah, so for me, it's a very close journey because I came from outside the industry. And in 2014, at that time, I think the industry was scratching the surface on these terms, right? The data, digital, what is it? So if you think industry was talked about digital oil fields about 30 years ago, but really nothing was really digital. Even today, if you look at most of the work we talk about is digitization or digitalization. So I think what happened in the last couple of years, I think it has become a reality that we really need to leverage artificial intelligence and more data science, as I call it, because artificial intelligence is a small component of data science. And as such, industry has always used algorithms, even artificial intelligence algorithms, but they were done at a very small, call it in quotes, small data. But today, with the leverage of cloud computing technology, the platforms that we have built and others has enabled us to really do these algorithmic approaches in combination with physics and science at scale. And as a result, you see that their application, whether it is in terms of slick line equipment, reservoir management, drilling well planning, right? In fact, all these programs are now digital enabled. And they use a combination of sensor technology, artificial intelligence algorithms, the physics-based algorithms, and actually the cloud computing paradigm. And hence, this has become truly a reality. And I can tell you in last 1 year, we have seen such an increase of adoption of these things, especially on the cloud, that I have to say it is 100% a reality.
Very interesting. And I think it's a great segue into our next question. We have 3 very different experiences on this panel. So I'd like to ask, from your firsthand experience, where do you see the greatest areas of impact of AI impact within the energy sector? And we'd love it if you can give us examples. So you can jump right in, Satyam.
All right. So if you look at it, industry has been collecting data, as I said, for decades, right? So a lot of value is sitting in what I call the dark data of the industry. So one can really learn from it and actually generate significantly. For example, one of the biggest term that industry uses called non-productive time, and PT, and it is a big thing. If you look at it, how much it costs industry, significant amount of money. In fact, if you can reduce your NPT by 1 or 2%, it's a significant saving. And especially one of the areas where industry can take advantage is actually mining their unstructured data. And that we have written articles on it in the World Oil and other magazines, where we have shown that mining something like 19,000 PDF files could result in $200 million savings. So if you think of it, when you combine that unstructured data with real-time data, your value proposition becomes significant, right? For example, a predictive maintenance, and I'm sure Rajiv will have more things to say about predictive maintenance from overall other energy sectors. But predictive maintenance could be a great place where you can leverage historical data as well as the real-time data. And by leveraging edge computing and fog computing paradigm, you can really significantly change the way we do things.
Definitely. And Rajiv, I'd love to hear your perspective with predictive maintenance.
For sure. So that is one of the areas where we could help in terms of operational excellence. So the first thing would be, when is the right time to do a scheduled event? You know, that can be a small event, big event. Sometimes it's as simple as doing an oil change, right? What is the best time to do that? And then the operations knows when to do it. And then when we couple the domain knowledge, I would call it, and the experience with the data, then we should be able to combine that and then do two things. One, making sure that the cost, the downtime cost is minimized, right? So yes, you're getting benefit, but at the end of the day, you don't want to lose a high demand time. So minimizing the downtime cost. Second, more importantly, increasing the reliability, right? You don't want to see unforeseen reliability issues. So you can actually, as opposed to doing just a calendar-based scheduled event, spend the money where you should go so that the fleet reliability goes up. And then also, more importantly, you can also go after the forced events. So yes, we are talking about the scheduled maintenance, but there are events that are going to happen about, I mean, that's a reality, right? These are machines. Machines are going to behave the way how sometimes they want, right? So overall, there is a huge opportunity in predictive maintenance in terms of optimization, spending less or spending where you should be. I would call it, it's more of intelligent maintenance. And then it can even expand towards other areas too, once you get there. And now with all that said, it is a journey. We need to actually put that into phases, right? Start small, get the tangible value, and then the journey will progress from that point.
Excellent. And Laurent, from the research and development perspective, what do you think?
So I would say that AI is really expected to revolutionize the R&D space, I would say at the discovery level. So there's a lot of hope that the analytics in general will be able to provide new material design, for example, so in silico build, and then people would have, so it would give a target material to be built, but this target material would be, for example, a material for which we would have high performance. So for polymers, for example, it would be new type of films with very good properties, or it could be also providing insights on new synthesis routes or new formulations. So I would say the one point that is really complicated is really the discovery, right? Because we tend to ask AI to provide data that is not really, it looks like new, right? So integrating the domain knowledge is really one of the challenges, because we don't want the algorithm to propose solutions that are obviously wrong. So I think these balance about integrating domain knowledge and really guiding the algorithms to propose really new solutions is key, right? So we hope that there will be some great progress, and we're working heavily on that. So discovery space is one of the key aspect on our side.
That makes a lot of sense. It's a lot of changes. And that leads us right into our next topic, which is how does an energy company need to change organizationally to succeed with AI? Are there cultural changes, new teams that need to be added? Let's see. I think actually, Laurent, let's stay with you and get your perspective here.
So we do have changes in both, the team members and the organization. So the overall organization did change. We do have new services that are dedicated to analytics at the corporation level. So it can be upstream, downstream, and chemicals. We will tap into those new groups. We do have also some new people that are integrated within the the business, right? So working on specific programs. So we are looking heavily, to bring new folks, young folks, or whatever, well aware about the new technologies. So in terms of culture, this is also an important aspect, right? We do bring new folks, but we do have, more experience and I would say old people, and we do need also to have a switch in the way people think about AI in general. People need to accept, right, that some solution may be, provided by an algorithm, and again, this is one of this is a new task, a new element that is added to most of our program, right? So we have people dedicated on data for most of our programs.
Very interesting. And I think Satyam would have some really good stories about this with his transition through the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. When I came to the industry, I thought that to run a big data science and digital program, you need really more people from outside or inside. It depends on how you think of it. But what actually I found out what is needed is what is called talent transformation, right? Because you see, this industry, especially upstream oil and gas, is full of really geophysicists, geologists, and others who have a great background in like science and technology and engineering, right? What they really need to do was to really think a little bit differently to augment their science with the data science. And hence, as a result, we started this program called Talent Transformation Inside. I hired few people from outside, PhD in atomic computational physics, turbulence, chemical, and whatnot, because I have a PhD in quantum mechanics. So I did bring in some people, but then at the same time, we had people from the domain who were actually geophysicists, right, or drillers to come and work with us. So I, in fact, defined the data scientist as a combination of three people: the person who can do the coding, so to say, the person who is a domain expert, and a person who is a business. Because we are in a business environment, so you have to bring that. And that automatically changes the culture, because now you can think differently. And as a result, we have run these programs not only just internal, but actually externally with our customers. And somebody would say, why would you do that? But because this industry requires a lot of education in that space. And so we have trained over 1,000 people around the world. We do what in a series of boot camps, as we call them. Boot camps, it could be a master class, whatever the country you are in, you can use the terminology. But as a result, we have seen the adoption of data science across the world significantly. And as a result, a lot of new solutions have been developed in a, what we call is a co-innovating approach. The only way you can do this is this culture of co-innovation. We can't live in the same world of silos again. We have lived that for many years. So when you start co-innovating, your silos will automatically merge, right? And then as a result, you can optimize your workflows effectively. And this is very hard for the industry people to get, to be very frank, right? Because they've been used to like two geophysicists sitting next to each other, not sharing data. And now suddenly you're talking about not only just sharing your data with geophysicists and the drillers, So but when you start building co-innovative solutions, it automatically happens. And they realize, okay, there's nothing, it's actually a good thing. It reduces our effort and it increases our efficiency. And I think so, hence, I think we have seen a great progress in this area, and I hope it continues to accelerate at that same pace.
It's very exciting. I love to hear, I love to hear growth happening. Rajiv, what's your perspective on this?
Yeah, I would echo the same comments. To me, it's a mindset shift overall and a different thought process of doing the same things. So, for instance, every company deals with this example of bad debt, right? So one of the initiatives that I worked on, where when we started this, it's like, it's a resource problem. Hey, I have this bad debt. If I had more resources, I would collect more money, right? Every business had this. That's why I'm taking this as a basic example. And now when you actually go back and look at it, and then when you look at the customer journey, how are these customers entering that phase that they call it, then we are finding out that there are various segments of customers, and some customers are very low risk customers that were never supposed to be there, that happened to be there. And then when we identify them, there are other easier ways to inform them or whatnot. So that made the pool smaller per se, right? 70%, it became immediately it became 100% to 70%. Then the next thing is, what else is happening with these low, medium risk, let's call it? What can we do to help them out? So them connecting them with the programs like that. And then finally, you will have high risk customers. And then understanding those, and then the number of them, and now you take the resources that you have. Finally, it comes down to identifying where the real workload is, and then matching that for an optimized scheduling, for an example, right? So this example, you substitute customers with machines, okay? You substitute bad debt with production loss, whatever the case might be. This is more or less the methodology, right? More or less how people should look at it. So as I said, it's a different thought process, different way of looking at things. And that is why you need a multi-talented team. Yes, business domain is absolutely needed. You need to know how the business is done. And now when you augment that or amplify that with the technology team and the data science, which is the math and stat with the powerful computation and technology background, now we are making progress. So that's the way how I would say it's a culture shift at the end of the day.
Definitely makes sense. Anyone have anything to add before we move on to our next topic? All right, it's time. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
One of the comments I would say, when we always talk about change management or transformation, we always focus on individual contributors, workforce. But what I can tell you is that what I've seen is it actually requires transformation at the leadership as well. I remember 2016 or something, I was at a presentation and somebody from a very big company asked, how do you retain your data scientist? I said, you can't manage them the same way that you have been managing the workforce before. They are different, right? Like there was a case study where somebody said, oh, data scientists should be here from 8 to 5 on the desk, right? It doesn't work that way, right? And then they have to interact with the domain experts and others. So this mindset, the mindset change, as Rajiv related to that word, I usually don't use that, but that's a perfect word, it has to be at the leadership level as well. And that's very important part of this journey.
That's a great point. And I think we can talk about some of the challenges surrounding that, leadership being one of them, but what challenges do organizations face when leveraging AI? And let's get some examples. These have been great examples so far. So Satyam, would you like to continue there?
Yeah, so for me, I put that in a very simple terms, right? We have been sitting on the data for 30 years, let's call it 30 years. But when you talk to some people, they want the solution to be built in 30 minutes, as if AI is something magical. So you see, we can't really do, and then when you start doing things, you can't even connect the data sets in 30 days because they themselves can't figure out where the data is. You can ask, and since we have from big companies here, you can ask them, where is the data? In fact, the question will be, who owns the data? And that is internal, not talking about data owned by some company or that company. Within an organization, we can have 10 meetings talking about who owns the data. So that's a big challenge. Doesn't the company own the data? So when you want to build, we all know that if we are going to build data science models, AI models augmented with physics models, we need data. So let's first figure out that whole aspect of it and then rush towards the model. And there is another challenge that I hear sometimes when you talk to some of the folks, they will say, oh, we don't really have good quality data. So my question to them has been, who has defined the quality? And if you had collected for 30 years, why we haven't fixed the quality? Right? So in fact, as a data scientist, when I put that hat, I say, I will leverage the algorithms to define how to improve the quality of the data. Going forward, at least from day to day, we could have good quality data. So you have to start with what you have. You can't wait for someday you will get a pristine data and then you will build models. So it's a journey. It goes in phases, and that thought process has to be there, that it is not a magical button that staples button you press and you got a solution.
Excellent. And that's an incredible perspective. Very makes a lot of sense. Laurent, what is your perspective here?
I really like what Satyam, mentioned, and fully aligned with him. I mean, I would say one of the people tend to think that the bottleneck is in AI. So it means technology is not fully available, or the algorithms are not, you don't have the exact algorithm that fits your problem, et cetera, et cetera. In most of those big companies, at least in R&D, I would say that we may not have done a great job in really organizing the data, such as it could be easily used. So I would say that the bottleneck is really to look at, do we have the adequate data amount, etc. So we're actually working on two fronts, right? Trying to leverage wherever it's possible and use, the data that we have, but also we've been rethinking the entire, infrastructure, and we're building new platform that will better feed, right, the analytics layer for the future. So we're really working on both stages. One of the big challenges that we have is, again, at the discovery level, integrating domain knowledge is usually what makes the difference between one algorithm or another. And here, I mean, this is not that simple. First of all, I mean, some of those knowledge, there's a lot of those are not just formula. People having worked in that domain for 30 years, they can feel what's right, what's wrong. So there's a lot of intuition. So it's not easy to integrate. But at the same time, we need to be careful, right? We don't want to put too much. So at the end, it just tells you, what you want to hear, right? You just restrict too much. So it needs also to be able to think out of the boxes to provide real discovery. And And also, I would say on the material side, we have that big challenge, which is materials, are defined at multiple scales from the atomistic level up to the macro level. So a piece of plastic, if you use your cover here, there's a lot of things that can be done at the atomistic level, a lot of properties, but we have from that level up to this one, we make a lot of tests, a lot of calculations, and keeping track of all that, the same as for any material, keeping all those things not in siloed, but connected in such a way that you changing something here, we can relate to something that is, further. This is the real challenge, not only in the computation power, but also on how things are working. There's a lot of gaps, right? Science is not perfect, and we don't know everything, right? So I guess the big challenge will be on our side will be around that, trying to get data, the right format, trying to integrate domain knowledge, trying to work on multiple scales and very long workflow for a given material to go from research to the end of the pipe to go to manufacturing. Most of the time it's in between 10 to 15 years. So you can think that for a given material at the end, you got to relate all those experiments from the one who started, a milligram of something at the lab scale. So this is, I think, the complexity is huge. Yeah.
Definitely, complexity is a challenge with any data of any kind. So we're dealing with a lot of data here. Rajiv, what's your perspective here?
I'm going to hit on two aspects of it, call it challenges, opportunities, whichever way we look at it, that I hear about it wherever we go, wherever we talk. First one is value realization, right? The first question that you get, okay, hey, how do I monetize it? How do I quantify it? And then how do I even start, right? So talking about it is one thing, but go ahead and start the journey as quickly as possible is what I would say. But more importantly, in terms of approach, pick the ones that are, people call it low-hanging fruits. Okay, pick the ones that are easier to get to, and then more practical, easier and feasible to get to. So when you actually lay out the plan, roadmap is what people also call it, right? We need to put it in such a way that we deliver the value as we go. And that actually did help quite a bit. And it doesn't even have to be a deep machine learning or data science technique. It can be as simple as a linear regression situation, right? There is data, what can we do with it? If there are data gaps, use imputation techniques. There are various advancements done that can help you get off the plane and then start making progress, start making the ball roll, right? And then once it picks up, then we can talk about various things. So one thing is value realization. There is no secret sauce, but some of these elements such as phased approach, deliver as you go, agile, and then keep the leadership engaged, show them what we have learned. Sometimes you don't get what you actually thought you would. Sometimes you get more, sometimes you get less, but it is the journey that matters. That's the way how I've seen it. The second thing is talent, right? So we talk about talent. That's a challenge, right? Because when you look at the traditional talent mechanisms or even development, it is more linear, I call it, right? Specialty-based talent, right? Linear meaning you train folks on legal, accounting, engineering, whatever, right? Whereas for data, you need a combination. So where are you going to find these people? You won't find a person who is talented in everything. So a collaborative team approach is what you need. And then as the team actually engages more and more, now they become multi-talented. So now, how do you actually, what are the methods? Upskilling, right? So pick the people that want to grow, that want to do more creative stuff, more fun stuff. And then the ones who actually are getting trained. Now, there are online platforms, right? Who are the people in your teams or in your companies that have done that, and then form either a part-time project, full-time project, whatever. There are various ways to address this, but the key is we need the domain expertise, right? So every company needs to tap their own expertise and augment, like what Dr. Priyadarshy was saying, augment that with outside technology, bring the freshness, bring the technology front to it, and bring the data science from the global community there. And then when you combine all that, that's how progress is made. So those are the two challenges I would say every organization has. So it's not unique to anybody. So, but we need to slowly take a crack at it, one small bite at a time.
Definitely an excellent point. It, you know, it's a recurring theme that we're hearing today, talking about building culture, but also finding the talent to fit into that culture. Does anyone have any other thoughts that they'd like to add before we move on to our final question? All right, so we're going to go very forward thinking. Let's think about the future. How do you expect AI to change the energy sector over the next 7 years? We've got a lot of changes happening to the industry in general, so I think we have a lot to talk about. Let's go with Satyam. What do you think?
As I said, AI is only a component of data science, right? It's only a small component of data science. And what this industry actually can take advantage of is various other things associated with it. For example, how do we do the integration across the workflow, right? So one area, it doesn't matter whether you're talking about upstream, downstream, midstream, or the energy sector, or the geothermal, or the hydrogen. All the energy sector have the same challenges. So figuring out a way to what I call real-time resource optimization will be the real success story of the industry. And as a result, that includes the predictive maintenance that Rajiv went into details. It actually includes workflow optimization, talent transformation, right? Cloud computing paradigm, the augmented and virtual reality utilization. I use the word actually immersive reality, because in this industry, people want to touch and feel, right? So if I want to operate something sitting in office, I could really see it being operated in the field, kind of, right? So that's called immersive reality. Those are the technologies what will bring is the integration of the whole energy spectrum into this future landscape, what we call energy transition landscape. Otherwise, first we have to break down the silo within an industry, and then we connect the industries together. And that will be the most efficient way in the next 8, 9, 10 years.
Excellent, thank you. Laurent, what do you think?
So I would echo what Satyam is, said, and I would add, the energy sector is going through a lot of changes, and the integration, for example, of life cycle analysis and the impact on the environment within the AI algorithm adds another complexity. So it's always some kind of multi-optimization problem. So usually we have to take into account the cost and also the properties or the performance of the material or the process. I would say now there's an added complexity, and I think the AI here to really fulfill what people are expecting, we'll have to take that into account. So, and it won't be easy in the sense that life cycle analysis is some of those processes and the impact is hard to to estimate, and there's some cascading, effect. So I guess this will help those energy companies to find new solutions that will be both, economically viable, but also good for the environment, right? And we can see that. I mean, ExxonMobil is working on a lot of capture, carbon capture. So we do use AI to try to define new materials, but I guess on the processes, yeah, I think this will be coming.
It's very exciting and very interesting to hear kind of everything from your research and development perspective there. Thank you. And Rajiv, how do you think the future is looking for us?
I think the one thing that I can see that is going to be more predominant would be customer at the core and at the center of every business. It's easy to say, but when you think about how much the change has taken us, you, me, everybody around us, and yes, there is technology, yes, there is smartphones and then things like that, those actually elevated the expectations for a customer, right? So now, whatever I am seeing on my mobile phone and my devices, I'm expecting a similar standard at my workplace, right? So when I am coming in to work on a specific problem, I am wanting to operate at that efficiency. It can be as simple as when I get into a new city, when I get out of the airport, if I have been in that airport at least once in my life, and if I open Uber, it will tell me where I want to go. So I don't have to think. So my point is, we need to be thinking like that, where, okay, customer at the core, and then how do we actually make the process better? Reporting, right? We actually do monthly reporting. Every company does that. If we are doing it more than 2 times, is that the right way to think about it? What can we actually call it? Minimize. Elimination takes a long time, but minimization, right? So customer at the core, internal or external, doesn't matter. There are forces around us that are changing or that are transforming, if that is the right term that people like to use. And the expectations are being set by those forces, let's call it, the companies who are actually using AI, and then they are the ones that are bringing into mainstream. So if you want to actually use AI like that, we need to be competing with them so that we can actually leverage the benefits like those forces. So what I am seeing is more and more customer transformation, more and more customer value, and more industry assimilation, if I could use the term, where industries are coming closer and closer. The business models are getting rethought more and more as we go, right? Retail, for example, has seen a lot of change. Energy is going to see a lot of change across the entire domain. And then every industry, aerospace, space, there is no limit. So, but the key is when the companies and the business models are centered with customer in mind and providing value based on the information, I think they will have a very long runway and then do a lot more success. And I see that progress. I think there will be a lot more success and then value that will be realized in that area.
Wow, thank you. This has been a great conversation. We have covered a lot, starting with, everything that's happening with predictive maintenance and all of the technologies that have been integrated over the last several years, and talking about how we can expand into the new frontier of AI. So this has been very exciting. And I would like to say a special thank you to all 3 of you, Laurent, Satyam, and Rajiv, for participating today. This has been an awesome conversation. So thank you all.
Thank you, Patrika.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rajiv.
Thank you. Yes.
Lauren.
Thank you.
Thank you. And so for the audience, just one quick thing, it's time for you to make your way to your next session. Along the way, make sure you accept your connection request and take some time to check out our amazing exhibits. Thanks so much, and we'll see you around.